marathon is just about seeing long term, seeing a vision, understanding that nothing really worthwhile happens overnight, and just sticking to your script long enough to make something real happen. Laying a brick every day instead of trying to build a brick wall. Just lay a brick every day. Eventually you look up, you're gonna have a brick wall.
No, wait a minute, Ermias, stop, Ermias. Make a film, start dancing, go over there. Come out, fresh and stuff, now start doing your dance. And you say, introducing Ernie Eskimo.
Ermias Ascadome, better known to the world as Nipsey Hussle.
Nah, standing at the crossroads, staring at the cosmos. I'm a product of this gangbang. Where we end up, only God knows.
The first time I ever heard of Nipsey Hussle was back in 2009 on a track he was featured on with Drake. The track was called Killer, and this was at a time when Drake's buzz was just starting to begin and he was the hottest new thing out. And you can tell on Nipsey's verse, he's a very articulate individual and that he paints pictures with his lines. Although this verse was very dope, it didn't give me much of an incentive to go check out his own music. About a year and a half later, and in early 2011, Chamillionaire drops a track called When Ya On, and it also features Nipsey Hussle. When Drake featured him on a track, I didn't really care too much because I wasn't such a huge Drake fan. But when Chamillionaire did it, I'm a huge Chamillionaire fan, so it made me focus on Nipsey Hussle. And as the years went on, I watched Nipsey Hussle grow into an amazing artist, a great businessman, and a person with high integrity. But to understand how he got there, we must start at the beginning.
The calendar today is Sunday the 26th.
That's correct.
Sunday 26th.
Nipsey Hussle was born on August 15th, 1985 in South Central Los Angeles in the Crenshaw district. The household he grew up in, his mother and father ended up splitting, but his father was constantly in his life regardless and had a house about 10 minutes away. He grew up with a younger sister and an older brother that we grew to know as Black Sam. Once Nipsey got to the age of around 7 or 8 years old, he started falling in love with hip-hop slowly, and the first rap group he fell in love with was Criss Cross. And his goal at the age of 8 was to get signed as a young artist and blow up. So he started writing rhymes but never really told anyone or spit them for anyone, so he just expected people to know and sign him. And when that didn't happen as a young kid, he ultimately ended up giving up on rap and said, let me go explore something else.
You know, I thought I was gonna be like Criss Cross, bro. Really, I thought I was gonna be like a young artist signed when I was a little kid. I guess when I was probably 8, 9, my goal was that by the time I'm 12, 13, I'll be signed and cracking as a little kid artist. And when I wasn't, I was like, fuck rap.
Another thing that contributed to that was that when Nipsey found out how expensive recording equipment was, he ultimately decided that he could not find a way to get that money and that he would quit rapping and find a different way to make money.
Trying to put it together, like, how do you rap? Oh, you gotta get a studio. You got how much is studio equipment? Damn, this shit is expensive. Like, I used to go to my homie Jermaine's house across the street and we'd build a studio in the backyard with no equipment. We'd just be clearing the dirt. Like, you know what I'm saying, sweeping the backyard up, like, we're gonna build it right here. And then, all right, it should be like 8 feet this way, you know what I'm saying? But just like realizing, damn, we don't have the capacity to do this. You know what I mean? We're gonna have to get money to do this. We can't just wing it off a dream.
Nipsey often credited his older brother Black Sam for his hustle. He looked up to him in a lot of ways and would always see Black Sam getting money from different avenues, so he started to do his own type of little hustles as a kid.
You know, my brother was always a hustler, you know what I mean? So I as a little brother, you're gonna do what your big brother do. And then also just being in a situation where we needed to kind of like compensate, you know what I mean? And make up for, like, you know what I mean? Things that we felt we should have that we didn't, you know?
In the 6th grade, he actually got his first job shoe shining at Chambers Shoe Shine on Slauson Avenue. And on some days, he would end up with $100 shining shoes a day, which is a lot for a kid in the 6th grade.
Did shine shoes at Chambers Shoe Shine, coincidentally on Slauson. So I just went through every business in the neighborhood like, I need a job.
Yeah.
And they was like, you too young, you know, you don't have a work permit, you too young. And the only one that gave me a job was a guy by the name of Paul Chambers.
Oh, okay.
And another young dude named Stephen Chambers. And it was a shoe shine parlor. I used to get $2.50 for every shoe I shine.
Yeah.
And my quota was $100 a day, so you can imagine how much
good money for that age.
Yeah, for sure. You know, I bought my whole 6th and 7th grade wardrobe off of that, man, and just learned about saving money and stacking and flipping like early on. So shout out to Chambers, man.
Regardless of that success, he saw his older brother have multiple hustles, so he wanted to have multiple hustles as well. So he started buying candy and selling them for twice the price while working at the shoe place, and the people didn't mind it at all. He also started mowing lawns, watering flowers, whatever he could do around the neighborhood to get an extra dollar. And the main motivation for all this hustling, Nipsey said, was because he wanted to get fresh school clothes whenever he went to school and not bother his parents for that money, because he knew they were barely getting by as it is.
Definitely sold candy, shine shoes, cut grass, water lawns. Man, everything. We used to want to go swimming. At the pool, it cost $1 to go swimming. And I used to be a mission to get $1, like to put it together. You know what I mean? And we had asked the lady to help her take her groceries in, give us a quarter or some shit like that. You know what I mean? Or whatever we could do. But yeah, that was
While doing all this side hustling, always in the back of Nipsey's mind was music. So at the age of 11 in the 6th grade, he had a friend by the name of Jermaine Jenkins who lived across the street from him, and he was the one that had a computer. He was the only one on the whole block to have a computer. So he went to his house, they ended up buying a mic, and this is when Nipsey recorded his first song ever. The first instrumental he ever rapped over was Snoop Dogg's title track off his album, The Dogfather.
Yeah, my homeboy Jermaine Jenkins used to live on 60th Street across the street from me. His mom, Miss Juliana Jenkins, used to take us to school every morning. We was young, like elementary. Yeah, you know, he had a computer in his house. Back then, that was a big shit to have a computer.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, you know, we found out how to record over instrumentals.
Do you remember, like
something like this, like plugged into the computer, and we used to just rap over old Snoop Dogg instrumentals. My first one was the Dogfather introduction.
Oh, okay.
The intro off the Dogfather album. But nah, that was the first record the first time I heard myself on a beat was on the Dogfather intro.
Nipsey was also a very resourceful individual. His grandpa ended up buying Black Sam and Nipsey a computer, but they ended up breaking it. And Nipsey wanted a new one, but they couldn't afford it. So what ended up happening was his grandpa bought him a bunch of books talking about computers. He read them, studied them, and ended up buying computer parts, bringing them back to their house, and built his own computer at a young age.
Nip built our first computer. My grandfather really bought our first computer. We ended up breaking it, throwing it away. And then as we got older, when we wanted a computer, Nip would come home from school with a backpack full of computer parts. And we shared a room, and we shared bunk beds. I was a little older, OCD. I used to, hey, we cleaning up today. He would get pissed off. Like, you ain't going nowhere, you helping me clean the room. And he brought these computer parts, and I'm like, man, we can't keep these in this room. He like, nah, I'm gonna build a computer. I'm like, man, if you don't get out of here, man. He's like 12 years old. I'm like, man, a computer back then to me was like rocket scientist. So I'm like, there's no way, get this shit out of here. He came back the next day with another piece of a computer. Came back, it took him about a week, maybe 2 weeks, and we just had all computer parts, loose parts on the floor. And he went to a computer auction and bought a case and bought a power supply. And I came home one day, he had the magazine that my grandfather had bought, computer magazines, and he had the computer and it was working, and he turned it on, and I could not believe this.
At the age of 12, his mom saw Nipsey writing music, and even recording music. So she recommended him to a program called Watchtowers in Los Angeles. And in this program, they had a bunch of little mini studios for people to learn studio equipment. And there he learned every single thing that he could when it comes to recording music, the right amps that he needed, the right equipment, the right speakers, the right microphone, so on and so forth.
My mom, just knowing I had a passion, she found this community center at the Watchtowers and was like, you know, they offer a class once a week. It's like electronic music. I used to catch the bus to the train and go to the Watchtowers on Saturday and just learn. It was like a classical composer.
Yeah.
He taught us how to use an MPC, which is the beat machine,
Yeah.
a 16-track recorder. That was my first exposure to production.
And because of that program, it actually taught him how to produce beats and engineer his own music. Because of those classes, Nipsey initially started out as a producer instead of a rapper. He used to produce for his friend Cuzzy Capone, who later on signed on to Nipsey's label, All Money In.
That's a real fact. I used to make beats primarily. Like, I used to make beats for Cuzzy. I don't know if anybody...
Cuzzy?
Yeah, Cuzzy Capone. He another artist from LA, from our area that's crazy. But we grew up in the same studio together and all that. And I used to be the producer and worked on his album as a producer, like with an MPC and with a Trinity rack and all that.
Despite all the side hustles that Nipsey Hussle had at an early age, he still couldn't find enough money to buy a bunch of recording equipment because back then it was very expensive to get anything. So at the age of 13, he started exploring more options, and this is when he started getting involved in gang culture. At the age of 13, he started going out in the streets more and eventually decided to join the Rollin' 60s gang, which was started realizing that in gangs, when he sold drugs, he made a lot more money than if he was doing it legally. And this is what gave him hope to finally stack up money to buy a studio, get studio equipment, and actually start recording his own music. Once he finally went to high school in the 9th grade at age 14, he decided to finally drop out of school. He wasn't performing well in school, having bad grades, but he had the potential to do very well. And a teacher saw this and asked him if he could perform better in school. And before he dropped out, he decided to do at least one more semester and got basically all A's and B's just for that teacher. And then he decided to ultimately drop out.
I did go to high school for 9th and 10th grade, and I was very capable, you know what I mean? But I wasn't focused on academics. Mm-hmm. I remember, you know, I had F's and D's every semester except one year. And one of my English teachers was like, bro, you smart, like, you know what I'm saying, what you doing? And I just did all my homework and focused for one semester and got like 5 A's, 2 B's. Just because I peeped game, and he was interested in my well-being, and he was sincere. So I was like, I'm gonna meet you halfway, and I did real well, and then I stopped going to school.
He says he decided to drop out because it gave him a lot more time to focus on hustling and to focus on creating his music. But his mom did not like that at all. When she found out he dropped out and was basically dedicating his life to the streets, she ended up changing the locks on her door and kicked him out completely. She saw that he also carried a lot of guns around him, and she wasn't fond of that either. So when he got kicked out, he decided to live with his grandma, which provoked him to get more into street activities. Thus came the name Thundercat.
Nigga, cause he really hood. You know, some of these rappers, they ain't, you know, they talk that shit, and what they do and what they got, and it's a bunch. It's not true. Nipsey is the truth, man. The truth. I call him Thundercat, cause he a little motherfucker with a lot of stick.
At the age of 15, Nipsey found himself in a situation where he had to grow up really fast. After being kicked out of his mom's house, he was forced to live with his grandma, and his grandma lived even more in the hood, and with no parental supervision, he decided to take to the streets. Regardless of him being in the streets, he wasn't fully involved with the Rollin' 60s gang. And around this time, he wasn't doing any gangbanging. He was just out there selling whatever he could sell to sort of keep himself afloat when it came to money. He wasn't the only one getting his hustle on. Of course, his older brother was hustling in the streets as well. And at 15, Nipsey says Black Sam had about $250,000 buried in his backyard, and when they ended up digging it out, more than half of the money got molded, so he lost well over $100,000.
He put it in like an airtight, fireproof safe, wrapped it in plastic. You thinking it's gonna survive?
Right.
He left it down there for like a year probably, and then when he dug it up, you know, I guess the moisture of the earth.
Really, it got in there?
Yeah, and it molded the money.
Oh,
you know
my
what I'm saying?
gosh.
So like 100 bands out of that 250 was molded.
Destroyed.
Yeah, and you know, that's a hard loss when you're young. He was a teenager. My mom was in there. We had the blow dryer out, all the money on the living room table, trying to dry the money.
What did your mom say?
Despite hustling in the streets, Nipsey always had a passion for music in the back of his mind. And at this time, he had two close friends that were really focused on music, his friend Rimpaw and his other friend J-Stone. Nipsey would originally record at the Watts Towers with Rimpaw, but they eventually got a little bit of studio equipment and started recording at Rimpaw's house. Nipsey's first rap name was called Concept. He started out making conscious rap, and eventually Rimpaw, Nipsey, and even Kid Ink, who nobody knew at that time as Kid Ink, made a group together called Stranded Minds.
I met Nipsey when I was like 15, Hamilton High School, 9th grade, and he used to sell CDs at school. It was me, Ermias, Nipsey, my bro Evan, who was going by Rimpaw, my bro Oliver, who was Ed Wright at the time, my bro Greg, I don't remember what name Greg had at the time, and we was going to Watts, catching like 2 buses in the train, go to Watts, and learning how to use just all this music equipment from this old head guy who just had like this program set up where he bought all these MPCs and keyboards and turntables and just different stuff and was letting us use it like for an hour. So we'd literally go up there for an hour, use the stuff, then take a bunch of trains back home. All that stuff we learned from there and all the equipment we ended up just buying and taking it to my boy house, Evan, you know what I'm saying? And that's, you know, just where we all hung out. And, you know what I'm saying? I didn't live over there. I lived more mid-city area and in between, or Los Angeles, whatever, or West LA area. But, you know, I was there. Those were all my homies, so I was just always going back and forth.
Nip's original rap name was Concept. We used to be in a group called with my boy Oliver, Ed Wright. It was Ed Wright, and it was Kid Ink was part of it, I think, and my boy Greg. We was in a group, and it was called Stranded Minds. And we used to perform at the Malcolm X Festival in Lamert Park. Nip used to be on some real conscious. We used to all be on that. You know what I'm saying? We used to all be on that. We used to all study that shit.
One of the first people he met was Rollo Styles, who was an engineer/producer, and he ended up teaming up with Nipsey Hussle and Rimpaw and J-Stone, and they started recording music. From there, Nipsey was in the streets and eventually ended up meeting Cuzzy Capone, and the two mutually became great friends because they both had a goal of becoming artists in the music industry. And Cuzzy Capone at that time knew a guy by the name of Dexter Brown, who was a photographer in the area. He liked photography a lot, but also wanted to get into music, and he had a bunch of music equipment that he did not know how to use. And Cuzzy remembered that Nipsey, Rimpaw, and Rollo knew how to use the music equipment, so he invited all 3 of them to Dexter Brown's spot. Dexter Brown welcomed them with open arms, and that's where they started to really record music. While in the streets, Nipsey also met another guy named Baby Gooch. Baby Gooch would come to the studio with them, and one day Nipsey was like, I need a rapper name. Baby Gooch then was thinking of names. One day Nipsey came back with a bunch of stuff in his backpack from hustling, and right then and there it clicked for Baby Gooch to call Nipsey Nipsey Hussle.
One day we was in here, we knew, it was getting kind of hectic because we was making a lot of songs, so we knew we was finna start embarking on something. So he's like, I gotta put a stamp on my name. I just can't go by my government, just can't go by E. So I was like, all right, I got you, man. We're gonna just put it in the air. We're gonna sit back and let it come. And then one day it just came to me, Nipsey Hussle. I don't know how it came. It just like a light bulb popped off. I was like, yeah, that's it. I knew when I first came to it, I was like, that's the name for you. Oh no, yeah, because when we first was talking about it, it didn't happen right away. When I said I'm gonna come up with a name, he left. He left and he went and did his thing. And then like 2 or 3 days later, the nigga just said he got his grind on, basically. You know what I mean? He came back, he had some money, he had a car, and I don't know if it was just divine intervention or what, but it just hit me. I'm like, Nipsey Hussle.
Shout out to my homeboy, Baby Gooch, you know what I'm saying? He that was inspired by him. I can't take no credit for my nickname, and that was my homeboy just threw it at me. I like how it sounded, and I decided to run with it. I more, identify with the hustle part, but then I I did my research, found out who Nipsey Hussle was.
Yeah.
Shout out to him. And his
Comedian,
legacy.
right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Just a genius, on a lot of fronts.
Despite being involved in the music, Nipsey got heavier and heavier into the streets and actually got into the Rollin' 60s gang. Cuz Capone was one of the people that taught him the ins and out of the gang life, and Nipsey was getting involved into a lot of fights and some shootouts here and there, and his name was getting known well in the streets as well as his music. In 2003, Lil Kev Mac, aka Cowboy, aka Big Thundercat, was released from prison, and he was an artist at that time known as Kev Mac. So naturally, Nipsey gravitated towards him because he wanted to do music as well. Cowboy also introduced him more into the street life, and Cowboy actually details the moment that he gave Nipsey Hussle his nickname, Thundercat.
Me and my girl was giving a party up in the hills and shit. I was on parole at the time. Police surrounded the whole building. So I tell all the homies, like, look, if you on parole or probation, we about to open the door. It's time to go. You got to run with me because we about to go. All the ones that was on probation, parole, or whatever, we crack the door and we break up out of there. By like 4 little homies, they break with me. They get up out of there. The next day, all the little homies came to my house, so they wanted to get some names. All the homies that ran. They got away from the police that night. They wanted to get names, so I start giving them names, and I say Thundercat for them. I named them, gave them the name, then I told them how the hood go. Tell them, it ain't all what it look like. You know what I mean? So like I said, talked to him for a couple days, laced him on the hood, how the hood go, gave him the rules, the regulations. Cuz went down, got put on, squabbled up.
Regardless of him getting involved more into the streets, Nipsey was still focused on the music, and in 2003, he dropped his first ever mixtape called Fuck the Middleman. And unfortunately, you can't find this mixtape anywhere online. Not the cover art, not the track list, none of the songs. And Nipsey says he distributed this mixtape through the streets out the back of his trunk in the 85 Cutlass that he had.
Man, me and my homeboy J Stone, we had some mixtapes local in our hood, and his was called The Grind Don't Stop. Mine was called Fuck the Middleman.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like early, like 03.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And we was doing like concerts on the block on 10th Ave and 63rd.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Performing, and we just had like a real local, small group of people that was feeling what we was doing.
Nipsey in late 2003, early 2004 ended up meeting a guy by the name of Bear Claw. Bear Claw was a guy that was heavily involved in the Rollin' 60s gang, but he got a bunch of artists in that local area to go to one place called Claustrophobic Studios, and in this place, a bunch of artists that were making music in that area got together and created a compilation project called the Crenshaw District Claustrophobic Mixtape. And on this mixtape, there was a track called Smoking That La La La, and it actually featured Nipsey Hussle.
Nipsey stay puffin' the la la la. I'm from the hood, bitches scream when I'm riding by. Nipsey always smoking that la la la. To keep my brain maintained through drama, I'm not the one. We jacking for beats on back streets with aluminum bats, toe tag the PD. That's any jurisdiction in or out the district. 7-7 division of crime scene forensic. My mind blur the vision of material witness. From 2020 to blind, now they need prescription. Cut the lights off and twist up a sack. Cause the feds watching the hood, you get all that. From the birds to the squads to the cameras in the back of the routes by the field where I handle the pack. See a nigga like me just had to attack. In junior high, I ain't had no sack lunch. In fact, I used to flip a quarter, get like me for change. Now I flip quarter pieces and cane and cop a game.
And while at Claustrophobic Studios, Nipsey ended up meeting a guy by the name of Tiny Draws. And Tiny Draws is important because Tiny Draws would eventually introduce Nipsey to Big U. But before that happened, Nipsey, Rempaw, and a bunch of other artists that were at the Claustrophobic Studios formed a group called Hood Unit. And this group was inspired by G Unit because they were popping at that time. When they formed this group, they ended up dropping 3 mixtapes in total. However, the group ended up dismantling after some time. And in the summer of 2004, Nipsey Hussle, at the age of 18, visited Eritrea, which was the homeland that his father came from. He said he learned a lot about his roots and how they managed to do things over there. He also said it inspired him to become a philanthropist because of the different economic status. He spent 3 months over there with Black Sam and his whole family and actually celebrated his 19th birthday.
Hello.
What is this? Good. Yeah, me, you feeling better? Yeah. Good. Top notch. The truth in the making. Easy. It's flowing nice too. What's up, Dad? Where we at, man? It's funny.
When Nipsey came back, he went straight back to the music. He immediately went to the studio over at Dexter Brown, talked with Cuzzy Capone and Baby Gooch, and they ended up together coming up with the name Slauson Boys as a group. Nipsey also decided that he wanted to make a record label called Slauson Boys as well. In late 2004, early 2005, Nipsey Hussle started doing the paperwork of filing LLCs, trademarks for the Slauson Boy record label, and while completing this, he was still known in the streets as Thundercat moving around, but there was a moment that changed his life forever, and he decided to finally get fully into music and stop messing with the streets. The moment that fully changed him was that his homies ended up doing a shootout, and he was there as well with that shootout, and it got caught on camera. And when it got caught on camera, all of them that were in the video ended up doing a lot of time. Luckily for Nipsey Hussle, though, they couldn't identify him, and he got away from it. And it was at this moment that he realized he did not want to do a lot of time for this gangbanging stuff, and realized that he just needs to 100% leave it alone, or he's going to end up like his friends, either dead or in jail.
I had some situations in my life that, you know, you get wake-up calls. You know what I mean? You go through close calls and things where you get kind of close to feeling like you gonna throw your stuff away. Excuse me. Yeah, your freedom, you know, your life, your opportunity. You know what I mean? And you come out them situations somehow, and be like, well, I don't like how that felt. You know, when you looking at it, when you got your feet on in them shoes, it's different than being aware of what could happen and being in a situation where it's happening. You know what I mean? Like, you in jail, you ain't got no bail. Not that you don't got the bail money, you just don't got bail because of your case. And if you don't beat your case, you about to go on that long road. And then you end up beating it, you know what I mean? Or you be in tight situations where everybody you was around end up washed up or, you know, dead, you know what I mean? Seeing death up close, people you was just with, you know what I mean? Places you just was on your way to. And, you know, reality kick in after a while. And you're gonna lay in the bed you make. So I knew that wasn't what I wanted as far as a final destination.
Right.
So I just started taking steps toward what I was passionate about, which was the music.
Right.
And then doors start opening. I start seeing the results of them steps, and I just followed the positivity. Yeah.
So at 19, he realized he hit the peak of his teenage years. He got the cars that he wanted, he got the girls that he wanted, but he ultimately wanted more for himself, and what he really liked was music. So he ended up selling his white Lincoln to a friend that really wanted it. He told his brother Black Sam why he sold his car and what he was going to do with the money. He told Black Sam that he wanted to take that money and invest it into his own studio. Black Sam decided to go half-half with him, and they invested an insane amount of money in studio equipment.
I used to have a Lincoln. When I was 19, I had a white Lincoln on Alpinas, you know what I'm saying? And that was like a famous LA car. You know, that white Lincoln on Alpinas. I was, you know, through LA, and you knew that car. So everybody would try to buy it. All the niggas I was having work and having weed was trying to buy that car. And I was the only nigga with Alpinas in LA. And my homeboy Hump had the Alpinas on his Monte Carlo. Everybody used to try to buy that car from me. And I was getting girls. I was turned up. So I'm like, I ain't selling this car. This is my look right now. I'm winning in this car.
Batmobile.
Yeah. And, you know, I had just reached a level in my grind where I'm like, I was sitting in that parking lot leaning on my Lincoln. And I'm like, yeah, man, you know, I had reached my little adolescent dream that I had for myself, you know? Like, damn, I'm right here. I'm at that level that I was trying to get at as far as just being a teenager. How I saw myself, I was there. And I'm like, you know, I could either go to my next level with this, and that was to like fully pursue what I had my hands in at that time. Or I'm like, or I could fuck with what I've been having an itch to do, which was the music. And I called D-Mac. D-Mac was been trying to buy the car from me. He like, man, I'm like, you still want this car, bro? He like, yep. He pulled up right here in the lowrider with a Rouse bag with racks in it and gave me the cash. I gave him the key. And then I went to, I hit my brother, like, I'm about to go buy some equipment. And he like, how much you got? And I told him when I got, he like, all right, I'm gonna match you, I'm gonna meet you up there. So, you know, the amount I had, he put that with me and we just bought all the equipment. And I was rapping since then.
Right. And around this time, Black Sam was selling illegal DVDs, bootlegging movies and music throughout the streets and making a lot of money. So with that investment, Nipsey could finally have his own studio to record in. And that year, he recorded the Slauson Boy Volume 1 mixtape. The mixtape was officially released on December 13th, 2005. He gave the mixtape to all of his homies to distribute them throughout the streets, and Nipsey's sale pitch was, if it's whack, just throw it out the window.
That was my sales pitch. I'll be on Crenshaw and Slauson in front of the Master Burger. I just thought it was so many people that was, oh, check my CD out, buy my music.
Yeah.
I wanted to distinguish myself. So I'm like, if it's whack, throw it out the window. I'm gonna sit right here. And a lot of times they'll be like, just cause I said that, like, man, let me check that out, huh?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that was my sales pitch, you know?
Nipsey's buzz slowly started growing once again, and Big U finally got released from prison. And when he got released, he said he wanted to get into the music industry and that he was looking for artists. Tiny Draws ended up telling Big U about Nipsey Hussle. Big U heard the music, liked it, and ended up becoming Nipsey Hussle's manager. Big U also knew Steve Lobel, and Steve Lobel actually had his foot in the music industry. Steve was looking for the next big artist as well, just like Big U. Big U ended up sending him the Slauson Boys mixtape, and he loved the project. He immediately said, let's get in contact with Nipsey, let's make a deal happen. Steve Lobel ended up becoming Nipsey's manager as well. Nipsey's first mainstream break actually came in 2006, thanks to Big U and Steve Lobel. Nipsey ended up getting featured on Tupac's posthumous album, Pac's Life. He ended up on track number 7 called International.
Him and Big Draws put that together, and LT Hutton. Yeah, and that was basically, I think LT was like the main producer on the album, and he put.
Who did the Pac movie too, right?
Yeah, exactly. He got a good relationship with their family.
Yeah.
And so basically, he just was like, I know Nip grinding. I didn't really have a resume at that time to justify it, but he gave me a shot. And a lot of that was based on the relationship he had with Draws and Steve, but then a lot of that also, he was just, you know, seeing us grinding and was just being a real nigga and giving me a shot.
And at this point in 2006, it seemed like everything was going right for Nipsey Hussle. Then on the date of November 17th, 2006, everything went left for Nipsey Hussle. On that date, Black Sam's house got raided, and in Black Sam's house was all the recording equipment that Nipsey Hussle had. All that ended up getting raided, taken by the cops, and the reason why the raid happened was because Black Sam was selling illegal movies and DVDs throughout the streets. Eventually, the cops knew who was doing it. They ended up raiding Black Sam's house, took everything that he owned, including all of Nipsey's studio equipment and Black Sam's BMW. Black Sam ended up getting locked up, and Nipsey Hussle started facing his own charges from the raid.
You know, the police raided the studio and took all the equipment and put a gun on me that was in the house, a shotgun. It was a registered shotgun, but I was on probation for a gun. So, you know, the probation says you can't be around no guns at all. So they booked me for the gun, took all my equipment, and I was really just in the house working. You know what I mean? Just like, they don't know that. Nobody know how pure you are but you. And I was really pure at that time. I wasn't doing nothing but music. And I'm like, damn, you know, like I was confused. Like, where does the good karma pay off at? You know what I mean? Where does this shit come back around at? Cause I was real committed. My money got short. That ain't stopped me. You know, like I said, how I was being viewed changed. People kind of like act like I fell off a little bit, and I still stayed committed. And then on top of all that, I got raided, and they took all my equipment, and they put a new case on me. I was just confused about it. And I remember like questioning everything, like, damn, I don't really have no part of the game that braced me for that. I don't have no mantras that I remember hearing or nothing I grew up around. I ain't had no answer for that one. But, you know, it kind of discouraged me for a long time. But I had accumulated so much music. But from when I got raided, I stopped really recording every day and got back into hustling full time, because I'm like, I gotta fight a case now, and I need to
lawyer, and I can't even really afford to sit in the studio like that.
Luckily for Nipsey Hussle, though, before the raid happened, he ended up recording a lot of music, and that music would end up getting him a record deal. There was still light at the tunnel for Nipsey because he still kept promoting his music. He was just fed up with recording it. And one time, while chilling in his neighborhood, the Game ended up pulling up on his block at a red light. Nipsey pulled up to him, gave him his demo. The Game liked it and called him immediately to work with him.
The day I met Nip?
Yeah.
I had a white Range Rover. I'm 28. At this time, like, I'm Doctor's Advocate is out. I'm 2 albums in. I'm not going nowhere. I want to get off the freeway, see some bitches, smoke some weed, maybe find a problem. I got a Glock on my lap, maybe. If niggas is tripping, I want my whole LA hip hop rapper nigga experience. So I would get off on Crenshaw, take Crenshaw all the way down to Wilshire, make a fucking left on Wilshire, make a right on La Cienega, make a right on Melrose just to go get my car wash at the car wash, back where I sold my CDs, to get at even more bitches and show off this Range Rover. So this day, it was my point to not get stopped at any red lights and Crip hoods while I was rolling at all. So it was like a Honda Civic and a fucking gray like Harley truck in front of me. And these niggas did not go through this yellow, bro. They stopped. Like, motherfuckers just keep on going. So I'm like, why does this nigga stop? I couldn't go around because there was a car coming up from the back. So I'm stuck at this light. Who on the corner? 15, 60s Crips.
Wow.
I don't fuck with these scenarios. This is what I did not want to happen. And this, you want to ride through LA and you want to just coast through smooth with no motherfucking problems. 15 young ass Crips on the corner and these niggas are crossing the street. For what reason, God, I don't even fucking know. But they're coming straight at my car. Niggas went from crossing in the crosswalk. This is my car. Niggas went from crossing the crosswalk that goes this way. Nigga, I'm right here behind 2 other cars. Them niggas turned. And then when they turned, they started getting close. And right when Nip got right where you are, the nigga whipped out a CD. I was like, oh my. He was like, hey, cuz, my name Nip. And we the Slauson Boys. Almost like if I met Run DMC. Them niggas, you could really see in these 3, it was Ren Paul, Jay Stone, and Nipsey. And you could see in them niggas' eyes that they really thought they was the shit. You could see the confidence in Nip. I took the CD and then he was like, nigga, you a real one, cuz. I put the CD in my car and then I called him. I was like, yo, Nip, you got a number on here? He was like, it's on the back, cuz. Confidence though. Not like, you know,
not being
like, no, the nigga just turned around. He didn't even come back to the car. The nigga turned around. He's like, it's on the back, cuz. I was like, it is on the back, cuz. So I took the CD, I put it in, and I'm like, man, this nigga sound like a fucking lyrical like Snoop. Took the CD, and later on that night, I called the number. I'm like, you know, come to the studio. Wack brought him to the studio with Big U and Steve Lobel.
Another great thing that happened to Nipsey in 2007 wasn't music related. Movie director Ving Rhames heard Nipsey's music through his daughter's iPod and decided to reach out to him and have him star in the Bone Thugs and Harmony movie I Tried. This was the first time Nipsey ever starred in a movie, and he was actually going in that direction because he was ultimately fed up with the music. But another music blessing happened on the movie set. Johnny Shipes, who is the owner of Cinematic Music Group, recently got a record label deal with Sony/Epic Records, and he was looking for the next big thing in the West Coast area. He ended up calling DJ Felly Fel, asked Felly Fel who's the hot thing in the West Coast area. He pointed him towards Nipsey Hussle. Ultimately, Johnny Shipes went on MySpace, heard his song Bullet Ain't Got No Names, flew out to Los Angeles where Nipsey Hussle was shooting that movie, and he said he wanted to sign him immediately. He actually took a chance on him because at this time, nobody was willing to sign Nipsey Hussle because of his gang affiliation and how vocal he was about his gang in his music. But Johnny Shipes did not care. He wanted to take the risk with Nipsey Hussle. So Big U, Steve Lobel, and Nipsey ultimately agreed to sign with Johnny Shipes and Cinematic Music Group, but now they had to finalize a deal with Sony/Epic Records. And while they were negotiating that deal, Nipsey Hussle once again ran into some problems in the streets. Nipsey and his homies were hanging out at a party, and a girl that was there ended up partying with them, but nobody knew that she was underage. And Nipsey says that she got caught by her parents, And when she got caught by her parents, she didn't want to admit that she skipped school or skipped work to hang out with a bunch of guys. So instead, she accused them of heinous crimes.
They charged the nigga with some bogus charges, homie. You know what I'm saying? The spot got raided. It was pictures of us on you know what I'm saying, on a photo camera with a burner, tucking the hood up with a female that come to find out was an underage female, you know what I'm saying, that had a thong on, that was making, suggested that was in positions that looked like she was doing something, you know what I'm saying, and the bitch just came with some trumped up charges because she ain't want to admit to her mom that she was a flick. You feel me? I'm hood, but a nigga didn't do nothing with the girl, nothing. She was just at a function full of homies that she wasn't supposed to be at. And the pictures got out and she ain't want to just fess up to her mama that she did school and did work to come hang out with some homies. And that shit turned into a real case for us. Some hood.
How long you had to sit on the shelf with that shit?
I mean, I beat my case in 2 months. I was in county jail for like damn near 50 days. So I beat my case by my second court date. You feel me?
So Nipsey was on the run and told Big U to finalize the deal with Sony instead of negotiating back and forth with them. So when Big U finalized the deal, Nipsey ended up having money to fight his case, and he didn't really face much time, but it was a little setback.
You're gonna be sick that they let you go.
Yeah, man, you know what I'm saying? That's they lost though, fuck it. You feel me?
Nip Hussle in the Epic building, about to go sign his deal.
Nah, man.
Robin Hood the Hoodster, only right that he's with us as the deal goes down. You dig? Blow the horns, Nip Hussle is in the building.
Yeah.
What's up, man? What's up, Alexa?
Regardless, in November of 2007, Nipsey showed up to Epic Records, signed the deal, and welcomed the whole world to Neighborhood Nip.
Neighborhood Nip Hussle.
Neighborhood Nip, we out here.
Neighborhood Nipsey Hussle.
Neighborhood Nip.
Neighborhood Nip Hussle.
Neighborhood Nip Hussle.
Neighborhood Nip Hussle.
What up, what up? It's your homeboy Neighborhood Nip Hussle. Back out here on this marathon, y'all know what it is.
And he was like, well, there's this kid Nipsey Hussle, but he's a real street dude. I don't know if you're gonna wanna, he's in the mix out there. So I flew home, and then that night I just went on MySpace. Yep, I just dated myself. And I looked him up, and he had like one song on there. This song called Bullets Ain't Got No Names. And I was like, yo, this is fucking incredible.
In early 2007, Nipsey is on the run and tells Big U and Steve Lobel to finalize the Sony deal with Cinematic Music Group and Epic Records. After finalizing the deal, Nipsey uses some of that money to beat his case. He ends up beating it, and now it's time to start promoting his music career and introduce to the world Neighborhood Nip. The track that got him ultimately signed to Sony and Epic Records was the track called Bullets Ain't Got No Names, which would serve as the title track for the first mixtape, and it was produced by Kid Ink. Nipsey had recorded a lot of music before his studio got raided, and all that music he combined into one mixtape, and this would be the first official mixtape after getting signed, and it would be delivered on a more mainstream level. The mixtape dropped on April 14th, 2008, and it was called Bullets Ain't Got No Name Volume 1. Of course, the title track was the lead single. They shot a music video for this and pushed it out to radio stations and DJs and in the streets. Then he shot a couple more music videos for a track called RSC for Life, and so on and so forth. And eventually this mixtape ended up getting a lot of buzz, which allowed him to get his foot into the music industry and actually be at award shows like the BET Awards. Then rappers also started shouting him out in the West Coast, such as Snoop Dogg. They met up, made music together. The Game, of course, they met up and made music together. So all the big cats in the West Coast were starting to co-sign him. Then in November 2008, two major things would happen in Nipsey Hussle's life. The first thing would be that he would become, for the first time, a father. His daughter Imani was born, and then he dropped on that same month the Volume 2 for Bullets Ain't Got No Name on November 9th, 2008. And this tape ended up increasing his buzz even more, so much so that they tried to push one of the tracks off the mixtape as the first single off his debut album, which at that time was called South Central State of Mind. The first single that they pushed was Hustle in the House. Hustle in the House music video came out in January of 2009. In the whole music video, a lot of people were wearing the Crenshaw t-shirts, and people kept asking after the music video came out, how do they get their hands on a Crenshaw t-shirt. Nipsey at that time did not have a clothing line, but his brother Black Sam finally got released from prison after serving 2.5 years. And when he got released, he realized there was an opportunity to create a clothing line based off the Crenshaw t-shirts that were blowing up. So Black Sam and Fats, who's Nipsey's childhood friend, decided to sell t-shirts, but the way they were doing it was illegally. They actually needed a building, and right across the street from where they were selling the t-shirts, they saw a for rent sign and decided to get it, and that was the official birth of Nipsey's clothing line, Slauson Tees, at that time.
We had our table set up right here. Probably like 3 days in a row, police came, pulled up, took all our shit. We went back, read up. They pulled up again, took all our shit. The third time they put us in cuffs. Put me in cuffs, put Fats in cuffs. We like, man, what's going on, man? We trying to make some money, man. It was a black officer. We like, man, we all black, man. Shut the fuck up. That's what he's telling us. If y'all want to sell something right here, what y'all gonna have to do is do like the tax-paying citizens and go open up a store and lease it and pay rent and sell something out of the shop. Took all our shit. He uncuffed me. He didn't take us to jail and he left. We sitting down on this curb right here, me and my nigga Fats. Just like, fuck, man, what do we do? Everything's gone. You know, we keep taking a loss. Look up, across the street. It's high-speed tax service right now. That was the first Slauson Tees.
Following this, in February 2009, Nipsey Hussle ended up joining the Game's LAX tour. He was one of the opening acts alongside Kendrick Lamar and J-Rock. With his buzz building up, they decided to drop the second intended single for his debut album, and this track was called She Said Stop, featuring Sean Kingston. In the summer of 2009, Nipsey had planned to drop the debut album South Central State of Mind, but ultimately that didn't happen. So instead of waiting around, Nipsey decided to release the final installment to the Bullets Ain't Got No Name series. So on August 4th, 2009, he dropped Volume 3. He also made more music with other artists and appeared on Snoop Dogg's Malice in Wonderland album in 2009 on the track number 9 called Upside Down, featuring Nipsey, of course, and Problem. On top of that, he did a track with Drake, who was buzzing crazy at that time, for the track Killer, and of course, this increased Nipsey's profile as an artist. Then in 2010, Epic Records, which was the label Nipsey was signed to, was facing a lot of financial issues, and a lot of the staff members that originally liked Nipsey Hussle's music and signed him either got fired or they left the label. And the new people that went on that label decided to compromise with Nipsey and give him his own record label under Epic Records, and this was the official birth of All Money in Records. Then in April of 2010, XXL released the new Freshman cover, and Nipsey Hussle landed on that cover alongside a lot of great artists like J. Cole, Big Sean, and Wiz Khalifa. So with his own record label deal under Epic Records and a good look with XXL, Nipsey decided to finally push his debut album and announced a release date of October 19th, 2010. And in that same month of getting that XXL cover, he released the first single off the album called Feelin' Myself on April 19th, 2010, featuring Lloyd. A couple months later, on August 30th, 2010, and was on rotation in radio stations and even on BET, but the song did not perform well. It ended up only peaking at number 93 on the US Hot R&B and Hip Hop songs. And while working on his music, Nipsey picked up an acting role once again and appeared in the movie Wrath of Cain in late 2010. With the lead single not performing as well as the label thought and as well as Nipsey thought, Nipsey and the label got together to talk about their next plan. But it was at this moment that Nipsey decided to ultimately go fully independent and leave the label because they weren't seeing eye to eye on what the next plan was, and Nipsey was fed up because everyone that initially signed him had left. So after a couple months of negotiating and the debut album not coming out in October like planned, Nipsey officially became an independent artist.
When it got on the radar of like the higher ups at Epic, they called me into this meeting. I'll never forget this shit. And it was like this woman from London who was the president at the time, and she's like, right, well, we fucking love Nipsey. We want to put him in with all these awesome dance producers from the UK. And I was like, what? I was like, he's a street artist from LA. Like, you don't even know what you're talking about right now. And I was like, I'm not into it. And then Nip wasn't into it. And we just went back and forth with the label for like months Meanwhile, I'm like, yo, let's put out an album. He's like, this was before Kendrick and everything. You know, people were really excited about what we had going on, and the label just didn't understand.
We had a shift of executives. The executive team changed. So, you know, Charlie Walk, who is on the 4 right now, the TV show with Puff and Khaled, that was the executive that signed me to Epic. You know what I mean? And the general manager, Adam Granite, he was just a dope, intelligent, you know what I mean? Like, high integrity person that I fucked with. And then even the head of A&R, Brandon Creed, wound up, you know, managing Bruno Mars early. And being involved with the early Bruno Mars shit. So it was a dope team up there. And then when they left, a new team came in. I wasn't familiar with none of the people. They didn't really know who I was. And like when executives revolve, what happens is that they don't get credit for stuff that's already signed because they didn't bring it into the building. So it's not really in their interest to focus on the stuff that's there. Right. They coming in with new energy. They want to bring new acts to the table. So I got kind of caught in that situation. We ended up, you know, I just had a convo with the general manager, like, you know, let me, don't hold my career up. Let me just start from scratch again. You know, I'm an independent-minded artist anyway.
In the midst of all this happening, though, Nipsey and his crew, Slauson Boys, ended up releasing their first mixtape, There Goes the Neighborhood Volume 1, on September 9th, 2010. And of course, he had to go back on the independent mixtape grind, and this would be the birth of a new mixtape series. On December 21st, 2010, he dropped a new mixtape called The Marathon. And the reception to this mixtape was insane. It actually got a lot more eyes on him, and this mixtape ended up debuting at number 179 on the Billboard 200, which would be Nipsey's first project landing on the Billboard 200. With that great success, it would look like Nipsey was on the right track. But in 2011, in March, something would go down that would disrupt Nipsey's plans and his brother's plans. In March 18th of 2011, Nipsey Hussle was linked to an officer-involved shooting in South LA. This was a dispute between Nipsey and his former manager, Big U. Big U claims nothing serious happened, but the police reports say something else. The news article says this evening the two men got into a physical altercation near the alley at the rear of Shell gas station at Crenshaw and Slauson in Hyde Park. In this area is actually where the Slauson Tees t-shirt place was at, so this is in front of Nipsey's store. According to eyewitnesses, Nipsey's brother Samuel Ascadome, aka Black Sam, pulled out a gun to defend his brother and fired into the air to end the conflict. That's when an LAPD officer arrived on the scene and fired at the brother, missing him.
How many fights I done had in this parking lot, I can't count, man. How many fights Fats had, my brother had, we can't count. How many, you know, incidents with the police right here. Let me show you something. So, you know, if you look where Ant's standing right there, that's where my brother was standing. You know, and if you look where, let me show you, stand about right here. You know, this is where the police was busting from. And police is trained shooters. Police don't miss. And you know, he busting like this in a full clip. And he didn't hit my brother at all.
According to the LAPD, Sergeant Ron Lopez, no one was hit and 5 people were taken into custody. Sergeant Lopez said that no one has been booked yet, so the names of those 5 individuals had not been released, but they knew that Henley, Nipsey, and his brother were taken into custody that Friday night. And through this situation, Nipsey ended up getting free, but his brother Black Sam ended up getting locked up. And Black Sam was the one that was running the Slauson Tees clothing company for Nipsey, and when he got locked up, they ended up losing that company because Nipsey was more focused on the music and didn't really care about the clothing line at that time.
Originally, we had this location right here. It was called Slauson Tees. We didn't have these 2 corners of this third space. We was operating out of this space right here. You know, my brother had, you know, caught a case, went down for a few years, so we ended up losing this space. When he came home, you know, he did like 3 years with 80%. And when he came home, you know, he had a little money saved up. I had a couple dollars when he touched down. We put our bread together. And the first thing he said is, I want to get this spot again. You know, I want to get back where we was at. And at first I'm like, man, you know, we got so much going on with the music. Do you want to be right here? And he like, you know, it's important that we, you know, keep what we had going. And
and also, you know, execute what we started, finish what we started.
And of course, with being focused on the music, he was working on his next mixtape. But while doing that, he was actually touring everywhere that he could and started touring even overseas, building his name over there. And as time passed, his brother Black Sam eventually got released, and he got back with Nipsey, got their money together, and decided to buy back the clothing store, but it would be at a different location, and it would be named Slauson Ave Clothing Store instead of Slauson Tees. With his brother back, the clothing line back, the business ready, Nipsey was ready to drop his new mixtape, and on November 1st, 2011, he dropped the mixtape The Marathon Continues. And the reception to this mixtape was amazing once again, and around this time, West Coast had officially come back. Kendrick Lamar was dropping his debut album, Schoolboy Q, J-Rock, Nipsey Hussle, of course, YG, Currency, Kid Ink, and so on and so forth were all making noise in the West Coast. So it was a good look. It was helping Nipsey out with his music and his reach, and he was touching places that he had never seen before. So while building his buzz, there was rumors circulating that Nipsey Hussle was going to sign to Rick Ross's Mailbox Music. And at this time, Mailbox Music was at its peak, hot all over the place. Rick Ross was buzzing like crazy, so it only made sense for someone from the West Coast to complete Mailbox Music. And this rumor was started because Rick Ross tweeted on Twitter on January 24th in 2012, MMG West coming soon, and Nipsey Hussle ended up retweeting it. So of course, with that tweet came questions from interviewers. So while Nipsey was touring in Europe, he got asked quite a few times if he's going to sign to Mailbox Music. At first, Nipsey said they're in talks, but ultimately he decided not to sign with them because he felt like he was cheating his team and he wanted to do things independently and build the All Money In brand.
The main reason was just that, you know, we had committed to doing it a certain way in my team internally, and I think that it would have been selfish for me. I'd have been in a great position as Nip, you know what I'm saying? But I'd have had to build my team value in round two, just because, you know, MMG and the deal would have got credit for taking Nip to whatever level that the next music took me to, rightfully so. You know what I'm saying? And I felt like I had committed that to my team, that whether it happened or not, we was gonna try to do that together.
Regardless, some great music came from that when MMG dropped the Self-Made Volume 2 project on June 26, 2012. On track 6, Fountain of Youth, with Stally, Rick Ross, and Nipsey Hussle, they all killed it. If you guys haven't heard that track, please pause this video and go check it out. Nipsey's verse is just legendary. It's arguably, to me, in my opinion, one of Nipsey's best verses. And since in 2012 he didn't release a project, he expanded his business portfolio, and in the summer of 2012, he opened a new business on the same block that he opened his clothing company with, called Wireless Connection. And in this business, they were selling cell phones, iPhone cases, services, and stuff like that relating to cell service. And throughout all of 2012, Nipsey didn't release an official new mixtape at all. He just released on February 13, 2012, The Marathon Continues Extra Laps, which featured a bunch of leftover tracks from the Marathon Continues project. But all of 2012 went and no new official mixtape came out, and a lot of fans were wondering what is happening with Nipsey Hussle. Is he facing more issues in his personal life? That wasn't the case. Nipsey was just touring the world and gathered a bunch of information as to why people were liking his music. And with that gathered information, in 2013, Nipsey would do something that would forever shake the hip-hop world and stamp him in hip-hop history. Initially, in December 2012, Nipsey announced that he would release the third installment to his marathon mixtape series called TM3 Victory Lap. But when 2013 came, he decided to scrap that idea and save the Victory Lap title for his debut album. So no longer will we get South Central State of Mind, we would get Victory Lap instead as his debut. But this left the fans wondering, what is Nipsey going to do next? Nipsey announced the title of his new mixtape, and it was titled Crenshaw, and for the first time ever in a Nipsey catalog, it would be hosted by DJ Drama. But this is the thing that went crazy online. Nipsey also announced that he would be releasing 1,000 physical copies for $100 each, And I remember when he announced this, he was getting so much criticism. It was insane. People on Twitter were roasting him, saying nobody's going to buy the project. He's an idiot for doing this. Who does he think he is? And boy, did he prove everyone wrong.
That's what it is. That's what it is.
Just a month later, on October 8th, 2013, Nipsey's new mixtape, Crenshaw, was released. And just that night, he opened up a pop-up shop in Fairfax, Los Angeles, where fans could go and buy the 1,000 copies that he was releasing for a limited time for $100. And that night, he sold out of all 1,000 copies, earning him $100,000 in one night. Jay-Z even purchased 100 copies himself and wired him $10,000. Not only did this slap every doubter in the face, but this was the first time an artist had ever sold a project for $100, whether on a major label or independently. And the crazy thing is this project was available for free. He created a new campaign and a new business model called Proud to Pay. And in this business model, he would offer people an exclusive limited edition copy that you would pay for $100, but it would give you a ticket to a concert that was only available to the people that bought the copy. This new Proud to Pay model would be something Nipsey would use for his future projects and would be a great way to create new excitement for every project that he released. And this project was a huge success. For the first time ever, Nipsey would go in the top 100 for the Billboard 200 charts. He peaked with this project at number 63 on the Billboard 200 and peaked at number 34 on the US top R&B and hip hop albums, which was something Nipsey had never done. He only peaked in the late hundreds when it came to his other projects. Another blessing came from this Crenshaw project, and that was the fact that Nipsey Hussle met Lauren London. Lauren London slid in his DMs, and she asked how she could get the Crenshaw mixtape and how she could get some stuff from his clothing store. And this led to them eventually meeting in person at Nipsey Hussle's clothing store, and eventually led to them being in a relationship.
She actually reached out through a mutual friend.
Okay.
When I dropped the Crenshaw project.
Yeah.
Because she was wrapping up a TV show.
Okay.
And I guess a lot of the people that was working on the TV shows from LA, and they do rap gifts,
Okay.
rap parties.
Okay.
So she got everybody Crenshaw CDs and shirts for the rap party.
Okay.
And then from there, we was locked in and just kept in contact.
Then in early 2014, Nipsey Hussle would expand his business portfolio. He got into business with Fatburger. They opened up a new store in the Crenshaw district. So they did a business partnership with Nipsey Hussle's Marathon clothing store and Fatburger.
We standing on Crenshaw and Slauson in the Crenshaw district, area I grew up in. Fatburger being an iconic brand in LA. You know, our core values kind of aligned. We had an idea to co-brand the Crenshaw collection from the Marathon clothing with the Fatburger logo. The brands represent Los Angeles. It was just something organic and natural that felt right. The Fatburger logo, you know, it's like the Hollywood sign, or it's like something that you come to LA, you think of Los Angeles. So we didn't want to get in the way of that. You know, we just wanted to, you know, represent the area and also our Crenshaw collection. The Crenshaw logo is becoming iconic in Los Angeles and starting to mean, you know, more than just the area. It's rich in history, it's rich in culture. And so, you know, I think that a lot of the city and a lot of the country look at us as ambassadors to this area. You know, in the business world, in the music world, nobody really put a flag in the Crenshaw and Slauson area before us. You know what I mean? So I think that it made sense to Fatburger to reach out. I think that we did a great design. Everybody inside, their whole staff was wearing it, and it just looked dope.
Then in 2014, Nipsey announced that he would release his debut album, Victory Lap, with or without a major label. But as the year went on, no new music came out. Then randomly on New Year's Eve, Nipsey Hussle dropped a new mixtape called Mailbox Money. And this mixtape also had the Proud to Pay campaign, but this one was different. This time he would only make 100 copies, and he would sell each copy for $1,000. Unfortunately, this wouldn't sell out like the first one did, and it wouldn't create the crazy buzz like the first one did, but after 2 years, he would end up selling all 100 copies. However, this mixtape performed very well on the charts. It peaked at number 18 on the US top R&B and hip hop albums, peaked at number 13 on the US top rap albums, and peaked at number 12 on the US independent albums. Then in 2015, Nipsey Hussle once again didn't release a project. He actually laid very low and barely did any interviews. He was touring around the world though. He did a European tour off the Mailbox Money, so on and so forth, building his brand up. He also appeared in a new acting role in the series Crazy Ex-Girlfriend. Then in 2016, Nipsey would pursue the music once again, and something would be added to his life that would change his life. Also, he would work a lot with YG, and rumors started spreading about a YG and Nipsey collab album. He appeared on YG's track I Wanna Benz with 50 Cent, which was very dope. If you guys have time, check that out. He also appeared with YG on the controversial record
Fuck down, try.
Then on his birthday in 2016, on August 15th, Nipsey Hussle dropped a new mixtape called Slauson Boy 2, which would be the follow-up to his 2005 debut mixtape, Slauson Boy. This mixtape, unlike the last two, did not come with a Proud to Pay campaign. It just came out free for everyone to get. And the project was received very well. It peaked at number 28 on the US independent albums. Then just a couple weeks later, on August 31st, 2016, Nipsey and Lauren London would welcome their first child together. That was a boy named Cross. Nipsey would also get his business in order once again and open up a new business venture called Elite Human Hair on Slauson Avenue on the same block where he has the clothing line and the wireless connection store.
A company called Elite Hair, and it sells,
Bundles?
Exactly. I was in the county jail. My boy from Compton told me, man, it's better than dope, Nip. You know what I'm saying? You're going to triple up off the hair. You go to India and get the kilos of it and, put it, spool it up and package it.
The hustler lingo.
I got laced. He told me about it. Then my brother came home as well and had the same curiosity about that game and just, put together a bag and went out there and, invested.
Then in 2017, Nipsey would see a lot of success, but unfortunately some heartbreak as well. In 2017, he invested in a lot of new business ventures. The first one was Followcoin. He secured an ownership stake in Followcoin, which is an Amsterdam-based cryptocurrency platform. Nipsey also collaborated with the weed company called The Cure Company for his own weed strain called Marathon OG. He also bought another piece of property on that Crenshaw strip where he has his clothing line, the wireless connection store, the Elite Hair store. He also opened up his own seafood restaurant called Fish Shack. On top of that, Nipsey Hussle reopened the World on Wheels, which was a roller rink initially damaged during the 1992 LA riots. And this World on Wheels program was something that kids could go to in the LA community to sort of get away from everything and just enjoy time with their friends. Another thing that he did was open up the first official Marathon clothing flagship store on June 17th, 2017. Although he always had that spot and always had his clothing line there, this would be a whole remodel, and this would be the first smart store ever opened for a clothing line. Eventually, Apple ended up copying this thing and producing their own type of smart stores.
Every product, every logo on the wall, there's a section where there's art on the wall. Every tag on each product is programmed with content. So there's content on the tags right now, and so once you make a purchase, you take the product home. There's an app you download, the Marathon Store app, and you can put the actual phone to the tag of the clothes, and the content will stream. What that'll do is, let's say I got a song with a big artist, and instead of giving it to Apple Music or giving it to a streaming site
you can stream it exclusively in the store.
Yeah, I can attach it to a product and say you can get the song available 3 days before it come out officially if you come buy this t-shirt. It's streaming off the tag. And so after that campaign is over, a year later, I can say, hey, anybody that bought the red Crenshaw baseball V-neck, check your tag. It could be in your dirty clothes from you bought it a year ago. Like I said, I just uploaded a new piece of content to this shirt. And because you bought it, you get it first. It'll come out 3 days later on all the traditional platforms. But as a reciprocation for the support, you get the content first. So I think that's unique.
With this great success, unfortunately came some heartbreak. Nipsey Hussle's longtime childhood friend, Stephen Fats Donaldson, was shot and killed on September 29th, 2017 on 5900 block of West Boulevard in Hyde Park. Apparently, at around 10:45 p.m., Donaldson was standing in front of a marijuana dispensary when someone fired at him from inside a passing vehicle. Donaldson and security guard employed by the dispensary ran inside and collapsed. Donaldson was pronounced dead at the scene at 11:10 p.m., according to the coroner's records. Stephen's nickname to Nipsey Hussle was Bolt the Fats, and Bolt the Fats had a huge role in Nipsey Hussle's success. He was there with Black Sam to help open up the Marathon clothing store from the beginning.
We go one bittersweet element. I know you lost your partner, Fats. Like,
yeah,
how you dealing with that situation?
Man, you know, that caught me off guard completely. I ain't expect that at all, and the timing was crazy. You know what I'm saying? We've been sitting on everything. We've been just holding our punches just to do it all at once. And you know what I'm saying? We've been all anticipating the moment that we get to enjoy. And it's a little fucked up. It's really fucked up that my partner and my homeboy, you know what I'm saying, ain't on this side of the dimension to experience it with us and you know, benefit from it. And, you know, from like, I don't want to go too deep into it, you know what I'm saying? That shit, I get emotional.
Nah, I feel you. Respect. Respect. No.
You know what I'm saying? But like his kids to be proud of him. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, real shit.
Yeah.
This was a huge hit to Nipsey's team and Nipsey himself, but as Nipsey said, the marathon continues. Then on November 27th, 2017, Nipsey announces that he's just signed a multi-album deal / partnership with Atlantic Records, and he announces his debut album is officially coming in 2018, and it's of course titled
Victory Lap.
You know, we in LA. My debut album got nominated. I'm really excited about that. You know, I feel like regardless of what happens Sunday, it's a win to be considered. 2018 was loaded with great rap albums. So, you know what I mean? I'm inspired, humbled, you know what I mean, and just focused, ready to get back in and do some more shit.
You fucking rap niggas. Hustle that is true, that's a fact, nigga. 30 boys sitting over my mat, nigga. Spend 1,000 on some t-shirts up at Saks, nigga. I ain't nothing like you fucking rap niggas. Hustle that is true, that's a fact, nigga. 30 boys sitting over my mat, nigga. Spend 1,000 on some t-shirts up at Saks, nigga. Alright.
Alright. I got that one more time, bro. Yeah, I got it. We got it. Yeah.
Keeping that, though.
Yeah.
2 days before announcing his official partnership with Atlantic Records, Nipsey dropped a collab project with a Los Angeles-based artist named Bino called No Pressure, and this project was recorded right after he had finished the debut album Victory Lap. The project dropped on November 25th, 2017, and just 2 days later, Nipsey made it official on Billboard.com that he signed a partnership deal for a multi-album, multi-million-dollar deal with Atlantic Records. This had come as a surprise to a lot of fans because Nipsey, after leaving Epic Records in 2010, kept screaming fuck the middleman and everything, and people were just expecting him never to sign to a major label, but Nipsey said he had to take it to a next level, and this is the only way that he could. After that announcement, Nipsey also told his fans that his debut album would be released on 2018, and fans couldn't believe it because it's been a long time coming since Nipsey would finally release his debut album. And because of that, Nipsey felt like he had to make a huge statement when releasing the first single off the debut album. And just a couple days later, on December 1st, 2017, Nipsey dropped the first single.
So I think as a brand, you know what I mean, to come out on my first record and say this was different about me. These are the things that's different about me. I do own all the rights to all my raps, you know what I'm saying? Literally, you know what I'm saying? And that's distinguishing. That's what separates Nip, you know what I mean? And so I thought that would be the statement to make coming out first.
Although the single didn't chart, it did end up going gold, which means it sold well over 500,000 copies. With dropping that single, he announced his debut album would be titled Victory Lap and released the art cover and released the release date. On top of that, he had a Proud to Pay campaign for this album in which he released a marathon book which cost $500 a piece and only 1,000 copies were made. Then a couple weeks later, to celebrate the 7-year anniversary of him releasing the marathon mixtape, he dropped a track called Bend Down featuring Swizz Beatz, and this track would not land on the album. It was just a freebie for the fans. Then just a couple weeks later, on January 19th, 2018, Nipsey dropped the second single off the album called Last Time That I Checked, featuring YG. And this single ended up performing a lot better than the first one. It peaked at number 29 on the US hip hop and R&B charts, and it peaked at number 76 on the Billboard Hot 100. It also ended up going gold, which means it sold over 500,000 copies. Then just a couple days later, on January 20th, 2018, Nipsey dropped the visuals for what was supposed to be the third single off the album called Grinding All My Life. Unfortunately, they didn't push it as the third single, and I thought this was the wrong move because this song was very dope and could have been pushed a lot further than even the last two singles. Regardless, this single served its purpose on building his buzz. Then finally, in February, Nipsey would release his debut album, Victory Lap. The album was released on February 16th, 2018, and it debuted at number 4 on the Billboard 200 chart and sold 53,000 copies within its first week, with 30,000 of those being traditional album sales, which means pure album sales, physical copies. This would be Nipsey's first top 10 chart ever when it comes to projects, and the reception to this whole album was amazing. Most of the scores were 4.5 out of 5 or 4 out of 5. Even though the album came out, they didn't stop Nipsey from promoting the album and dropping more music videos from tracks off the album. Just a couple weeks later, he dropped the Hustle and Motivate music video, which was sort of like a movie because Nipsey said he wanted to go into the movie direction in the future possibly and do documentaries. Even while focusing on the music and having a crazy album rollout, Nipsey still managed to take care of his business. In the same month of releasing his album, Nipsey and his business partner David Gross opened up a co-working space called Vector 90 in the Crenshaw district. Vector 90 is a co-work space where people in the community that don't have a place to go and work on their dreams can actually go, use their equipment like computers, so on and so forth. And this was their first step towards opening STEM schools in various areas such as Los Angeles, Atlanta, DC, and underserved neighborhoods all over the country. Nipsey's plan, along with David Gross, is to bridge the gap between Silicon Valley and these communities.
So the program is called Too Big to Fail, and I didn't start it. I was brought into it. It was started by an investor and a real estate developer named Dave Gross.
Yeah.
And we just was sitting next to each other at the Laker game, and he like, Nip, you know, I'm a fan of the music, and this what I got going on. Let me come out of the office, let me show it to you. And when I saw the vision, it was like, to sum it up, it's basically a bridge to connect inner city LA youth to the opportunities in Silicon Valley. Mm-hmm. Because to ever be able to get a job at Google or Facebook or any one of these companies like Apple, you got to get trained early on science, technology, engineering, and math. Because it's like a 10, 15-year learning curve for them things. You can't start. I mean, you can start whenever, but you really behind if you start late. You know, so these people that end up working there, you know, they got trained from elementary school.
Right.
You know, so we just want to be able to create a center where these young kids can come tap in, and it's multi-level. This one part of it is it's like a co-working space, kind of like WeWork.
Yeah.
So, you know, entrepreneurs, local entrepreneurs in the area could rent office space.
Mhm.
And then the other level is the STEM center,
Mhm.
where they could just get training and just, you know, get educated on science, technology, engineering, and math.
He also opened up a new fish restaurant in the same plaza where he has his clothing store and all the other business ventures. This one is called Baba Leo's, and it offered a more healthy approach to eating fish food. He added another business to that plaza and opened up a barbershop and called it Steve's Barbershop, which was to honor his friend. In that year, he also invested in an app called Vest, which is a blockchain-based music app. It makes it easier for artists to get payment from consumers, and it makes it more transparent.
I know I've been having my foot in this tech space. I just got some inside information about a new opportunity I want to hip y'all to. It's a company called Vest, as in invest. It's basically a marketplace that artists and content creators can go directly to their fan base and their consumers via the blockchain, and they can basically allocate value for either individual songs or whole projects, and fans can buy into the records. Traditionally, you had to go to a publishing company to get money advanced to you for the future value of your records. This platform creates the opportunity for your fans to buy into the records ahead of time. So this is just a new idea. It's a new platform. It's linked to the blockchain, so the whole transaction is transparent. It's something I'm really excited about. I think all new artists, old artists with catalogs that haven't been monetized on the new platforms can really embrace this thing. It's even a new term they came up with called an ISO, which is an initial song offering. In addition to just all the dope features of the technology that artists can benefit from, just as an investor and as a businessman, it's something I'm going to invest in and become not only an influencer and hopefully on the board of, but also an equity holder.
He also announced an expansion in his clothing line, and that expansion would be Marathon Clothing alongside Puma, and they would do a deal where they would have exclusive clothing come out that was designed by Nipsey Hussle and the Puma company.
So it's two sides to it. On one side, I'm a brand ambassador for Puma, so basically it's an endorsement deal. The other side of it is a collaborative project with the Marathon and Puma. So we're gonna do a collection, multiple collections, but the first one dropped fall 2019, like around September. So it's gonna be shoes, apparel, a few accessories. Show a sneaker, but then it's gonna be a marathon, not Nip. It's gonna be a marathon Puma. I'm a also just endorse the Puma products, so I'm gonna be in ads wearing the stuff. But then the other part of it is a collab between Marathon and Puma. So it won't be no Nipsey Hussle Puma shoe. It'll be a Marathon Marathon Puma shoe. And sweatsuit capsule and t-shirts and stuff like that.
That's hard. He also announced in late 2018 his own water called Marathon Water. And of course, he didn't forget about the music. He ended up touring the whole Victory Lap album in the summer of 2018 and dropped more music videos from the album. One music video he dropped was for Double Up, and this is actually a song that peaked at number 65 on the Billboard Hot 100, which was a good look. It was his highest charting song at that moment. He also shot the visuals for the title track Victory Lap, and that peaked at number 100 on the Billboard Hot 100. He also shot the visuals for Status Symbol as well. Then on December 7th, 2018, the Grammys announced the nominees for the Best Rap Album, and Nipsey Hussle's debut album Victory Lap was nominated. To celebrate the fact that he got nominated, a week later on December 17th, 2018, he dropped a new track called Perfect Timing. Then in February of 2019, a lot of things would happen. On February 10th, 2019, the 61st annual Grammys aired, and the Best Rap Album winner was officially announced. And of course, Nipsey Hussle was nominated for the Best Rap Album, but he ended up losing to Cardi B.
You know, you can't be upset. You can't be, oh, I got cheated, I got let. Nah, that was clearly her time because of the way the outcome happened. And even before the Grammy was announced, Cardi had a great year. She had a big year. And so, that was just like I seen certain people having, even on my timeline, like, man, you got cheated. No, we ain't doing that. That ain't the convo. You feel me, man? that was her time. She got what she deserved.
Despite not winning, Nipsey kept his foot on the gas when it came to the music, and just a couple days later, on February 15th, 2019, he dropped the lead single from his new album called Racks in the Middle, featuring Roddy Ricch and Hit Boy. This track would be his highest charting single to date. It peaked at number 26 on the Billboard Hot 100. With the music going so well behind the scenes, Nipsey finally closed a deal on purchasing the whole plaza, and not just having a section of the plaza like the Marathon Clothing or a fish marketplace, but the whole plaza. They managed to close it, finally get the whole plaza in their name, own everything, and it was a surreal moment for Nipsey. He said he started hustling on that plaza, and now to own it, it was something he couldn't imagine.
Well, that one property you talking about, 3420 West Slauson, that's the building that the Marathon Clothing was in from day one, even before it was a Marathon, when it was just Slauson Tees. We was just renting a space and, you know, selling little odd items, T-shirts and stuff. It was in that shopping plaza. And even before we had the space rented, that was our corner we used to grind off of. So that building meant a lot to us, for sentimental reasons and just for the strategic location and what's going on right around it in LA, you know, Crenshaw with the train and everything. So from a real estate standpoint, it was a great opportunity, but then just from a sentimental level also. Yeah, that whole strip mall.
The whole plaza?
The whole plaza, yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
That's amazing.
Myself, my brother, Dave Gross, we partners on it. So we all went in and purchased the whole lot together. Man, it ain't really sunk in for real. You know what I mean? I don't think it really sunk in. And we got other real estate, you know, but that one, just pulling in that parking lot and being like, you know, this is our land.
Following this, in the month of March in 2019, Nipsey was going around promoting his first single off his new album, Racks in the Middle. Then on March 31st, 2019, Nipsey got up and went to his Marathon Clothing store to help a friend out that just got released from prison. He ended up giving him some free Marathon clothing. But while there, something would happen that would impact and change the world forever. But regardless, the marathon continues.
If you had to sort of give one overarching statement about where you came from and where you're at now, and how that directly affects your music, in sort of one or two sentences, what would you say?
The marathon continues, you know?
Sorry.
Real shit, that's it.
Sorry.
That's the perfect line for that, man, you know what I'm saying? Let her keep her laugh in there, too. Don't cut the laugh, keep her laugh. Yeah, that's it, you know what I mean? Keep all of that.
The breaking news now, rapper Nipsey Hussle has been shot and killed in Los Angeles. The Grammy-nominated rapper was gunned down outside of his clothing store around 3:30 p.m. West Coast time. Police say 2 other people were hurt. Nipsey Hussle's debut studio album, Victory Lap, was nominated for Best Rap Album at this year's Grammy Awards. He was 33 years old.
On March 31st, 2019, on a Sunday afternoon, Nipsey got up and went to his Marathon Clothing store like he usually does to take care of business. While there, he's hanging out with family and friends and taking some pictures with fans. At 2:52 p.m., Nipsey sends out a tweet saying having strong enemies is a blessing. But little did we know this would be the last thing he would say ever on social media. Just minutes after, the person that Nipsey had a conversation with left and came back. And when he came back, he had a firearm with him and set off multiple shots at Nipsey Hussle and 2 people surrounding him. After shooting him multiple times, he kicks Nipsey in the head and then runs away in a getaway car. A couple days after Nipsey's death, the Los Angeles Times interviewed Nipsey's brother Black Sam, and he details the fact that Nipsey didn't die immediately when he got shot. He was actually still alive in that parking lot fighting for his life. Right when this incident happened, somebody called Black Sam, and Black Sam says that he jumped into his parked car outside his grandmother's house. He ignored the red lights as he raced down Slauson Avenue, the South Los Angeles street that he and Nip were working to uplift. He arrived at the Marathon clothing store precious minutes after a gunman fired multiple rounds into Nip. Blood stained the front of his brother's shirt and a hole marked where a bullet entered his leg. Black Sam said there's no reason for him to be breathing, but Nip was. Air rushed in and out of his nose, strong and loud. Black Sam hushed the crowd that had formed around his brother. Nip laid on his back with his head tilted to the side. The 911 operator told him what to do. Black Sam found the hard, flat spot on his brother's chest, clapped his hands together, and pushed forcefully down hard to keep Nip breathing. When the 911 operator reached 20, the wail of an ambulance's siren filled the air around the strip mall. Paramedics inserted a tube down Nipsey's throat, stuck an IV in his arm, and then lifted him off the pavement onto a waiting stretcher. A chilling scream erupted from somewhere in the crowd of those who had gathered to watch. A bullet had pierced the back of Nipsey's head. For the first time, Black Sam saw the gunshot wound on the back of his brother's head. He started praying. Of course, when this happened, immediately news outlets started reporting about this. But first, the reports were that 3 people were shot outside of Nipsey Hussle's Marathon clothing store. Then reports came out that Nipsey himself got shot as well. So a lot of people online were praying for his well-being and hoping that he pulls through. But then more and more things started coming out. Video footage of the incident started hitting social media platforms. And then just about an hour after the reports, everyone confirmed that Nipsey Hussle was one of the 3 people that passed away. The whole world was in shock and just genuinely confused. Why would someone want to murder someone that's just helping out his community? And everyone major in the world responded to this in utter shock, such as LeBron James, The Game, Snoop Dogg, anyone in the hip-hop community like J. Cole, 50 Cent, so on and so forth. And after the incident, the suspect was still on the run. His face, though, was plastered all over the news, so it was only a matter of time until he got arrested. And just a couple days later, on April 2nd, the LAPD found him and arrested him. On that same day, Nipsey Hussle's significant other, Lauren London, finally spoke after Nipsey's murder. She got on Instagram and posted several photos of them two, and in the caption she said, "I am completely lost. I've lost my best friend, my sanctuary, my protector, my soul. I'm lost without you. We are lost without you, babe. I have no words." The outpouring support and love for Nipsey was something the world hadn't seen maybe since Michael Jackson's passing. Thousands and thousands of fans came by the Marathon clothing store to pay their respects, and many fans started purchasing Nipsey Hussle's clothing line. They ended up doing $10 million in sales within just a couple of weeks since his passing. The online store had so many orders taking place at that time that they actually had to release a statement apologizing to people as to why their orders were coming in late. And if that wasn't enough to show how much people love Nipsey Hussle, it was announced on April 10th that Nipsey Hussle's funeral would be held at the Staples Center. And the only celebrity previous to this that had their funeral at the Staples Center was Michael Jackson. And Michael Jackson was obviously one of the biggest stars in the world. So that just shows how much support people had for Nipsey in the Los Angeles community. Then the following day, on April 11th, Nipsey's funeral service was finally held, and it was broadcasted on live streams on every news platform you can think of. All kinds of people showed up for the funeral service, from Stevie Wonder to Snoop Dogg to YG, his family and friends, and even Obama sent in a letter showing his appreciation to Nipsey Hussle.
We would like to read a letter from the 44th President of the United States, Barack Obama, sent in regarding the life and celebration of Nipsey Hussle. Written today, this morning at April 11th, 2019, the friends and family of Nipsey Hussle. I've never met Nipsey, but I've heard his music through my daughters. And after his passing, I had the chance to learn more about his transformation and his community work. While most folks look at the Crenshaw neighborhood where he grew up and only see gangs, bullets, and despair, Nipsey saw potential. He saw hope. He saw a community that even through its flaws, taught him to always keep going. His choice to invest in that community, rather than to ignore it, to build a skills training center, a co-working space in Crenshaw, to lift up the Eritrean American community. He set an example for young people to follow and is a legacy worth of celebration. I hope his memory inspires more good work in Crenshaw and communities like it. Michelle and I send our sympathies to Lauren, Imani Cross, and his whole family, and to all those who love Nipsey. Sincerely, Barack Obama.
I'm very proud of my son. My son, Ermias Joseph Askedome, was a great man.
After the funeral service, there was a 25-mile last victory lap around LA before Nipsey Hussle was officially laid to rest. And this last victory lap went around all the places that Nipsey Hussle contributed to and all the places he grew up around, such as the Marathon clothing store, houses that he grew up in, from his grandmother's to his father's to his mom's. He also passed the Watts Towers, which was the place where he learned how to use music equipment, and hundreds of thousands of people were lined up across the streets to show support for Nipsey Hussle's last victory lap. And on the day of his funeral, a South Los Angeles city councilman by the name of Marquise Harris Dawson announced that the heartbeat of South LA community, which was the intersection of Crenshaw Boulevard and West Slauson Avenue, would be named in honor of one of its own, which was Nipsey Hussle. That intersection was officially renamed into Ermias Nipsey Hussle Askedome Square. And the reason for this was a petition started online and over 500,000 people signed it. And of course, the councilman took wind of it and presented it, and it got approved. With all these things happening though, in the back of everyone's mind was, why exactly was Nipsey Hussle murdered? His friends, family, and fans were left wondering that question for months. Even Nipsey's brother Black Sam has been trying to come to terms with what happened, but it's hard to know who to trust. He said his brother's death feels like an execution. That's what he told the LA Times. He continues and says he wonders if the attack was a hit job or if the person was simply jealous. He said it doesn't make sense that somebody from the area that just snuck up and just talked to him shook his hand minutes before. It's mind-boggling. But as the months went on, we ended up getting more and more information. On May 21st, 2019, a grand jury indicted the man suspected of killing Nipsey Hussle. He was indicted on 1 count of murder, 2 counts each of attempted murder and assault with a firearm, and 1 count of possession of a firearm by a felon. Then on June 28th, 2019, the judge orders a release of transcripts in the Nipsey Hussle murder case. And these transcripts would reveal a lot about what happened exactly on that day that Nipsey was killed. But one of the things that was revealed was Nipsey's last words. And the last words that he said to the suspect that shot him was, "You got me." The transcripts also revealed that they had a 4-minute conversation, and at some point, the topic turned to snitching. Apparently, the conversation had something to do with Hussle telling the suspect that word on the street was that he was snitching, but the conversation didn't become intense. It wasn't anything belligerent. And that's what the prosecutors believe was the whole reason why this suspect ended up murdering Nipsey Hussle. But I like Lil Boosie's take on this instead. Lil Boosie, of course, did an interview with Vlad TV and talked about Nipsey Hussle's murder, and he chalks it up to jealousy. And the reason why he says jealousy is because the suspect's girlfriend minutes before ended up taking a selfie with Nipsey, and his girlfriend really admired Nipsey Hussle, and the suspect could have taken this the wrong way and felt jealous. Boosie then also continues and says, why would someone kill someone in broad daylight, come back, shoot him multiple times, and kick him in the head? Boosie says that kick in the head shows that the suspect had a lot of pent-up anger and jealousy towards Nipsey Hussle.
Bro, if it was just a snitch, if he was just killed him because it was a snitch, he wouldn't even die. He would have shot him. You call me a snitch, boom, boom. That's what it would have been. When you come back 3 times, you kick a man, you been wanting to fight him and kick him. Bitch ass nigga, you been wanting to fight him and kick him. That nigga was hypnotized. You shoot a nigga and kick him? Nigga, you been had this. I know when you fight a nigga, I know how this shit is. When you go to the streets and wanted to kick this nigga, you been wanting to fuck this nigga up, man. That nigga was hypnotized, man.
Despite all of this, the suspect still has to go in court, and he is facing a life sentence, and he was scheduled to go in court and fight this trial in April of 2020, but ultimately it has been postponed to a newer date. With Nipsey Hussle's passing, this also brought up the question from fans, how would the marathon continue?
This is our opportunity. Now, Nipsey, one more time.
This is our opportunity. This is our opportunity. This is our opportunity.
Ready? You ready?
Come on.
Right at that glass, you got this.
Come on.
Ready, and action.
This is our opportunity.
You made me laugh. Hold on, let me make me smile. Good job, good job. Do it again, do it again.
Come on, you got this.
That was great, that was great. Let me keep my face straight.
And action.
This is our opportunity. This is our opportunity. This is our opportunity.
I'm a proud dad, Money Man. Good job, Money Man. Good job. And you was nervous. You thought you was gonna do. Yeah, you for sure served me. Yours better than mine.
Our Opportunity is the latest organization to carry on Nipsey's vision. Co-founded by Nipsey and David Gross, it's a grassroots investment initiative that's described as a community-aligned organization focused on spreading transformative economic opportunity in low-income neighborhoods throughout the United States. So while it started in Nipsey Hussle's neighborhood in LA, Our Opportunity's larger goal is to work with leaders in inner cities like Atlanta, Chicago, Washington, D.C., and New Orleans to build transformative projects. David Gross, who is a business partner with Nipsey Hussle and Vector 90 and various other things, such as the Our Opportunity Initiative, revealed a couple days after Nipsey's passing that they were invested in a huge Virgin Las Vegas casino for well over $200 million. And David Gross shared the details of this deal on Instagram, and in the caption he said, "This was about 4 months after our syndicate. Apparently they were trying to place a bid and buy a different type of hotel somewhere else alongside DJ Khaled and a few other investors. They were unsuccessful in that, but they still shared the attempt with the world." And a few weeks later, senior execs from Virgin Hotels reached out to Atlantic Records to meet with David Gross and Nipsey to see if they were interested in being in the hospitality space, and they said they were. This is the meeting a couple months later that would result in them becoming partial owners of not a hotel, but a resort and casino in the desert, and this would be called the Virgin Las Vegas, which would be coming this year. Nipsey's impact on the community was something that really wasn't calculated. We knew he was doing it, but we didn't know the numbers behind it. And the website GoGetData.news decided to compile everything that Nipsey has done in the business world and for the community since 2013 to 2019. And this diagram shows all the people that Nipsey impacted and all the investments he made. The total projected value of investments for community, tech, and lifestyle ventures equals up to $210,413,500. And this is only the projected value because we don't know the details of every deal that Nipsey did. And the amount of people he hired, assisted, and impacted equals up to 41,369, which goes to show how far his reach was in his community. We knew that Nipsey Hussle was giving back to his community, but we never really heard from the people themselves that were getting impacted by all of his investments in the community. So when he passed, all those stories from those people started coming out, and I decided to share one with you guys that was really dope. This female commented on a Facebook post after the news of Nipsey Hussle passing came out, and she said, "Hello neighborhood, I've been trying to call in all morning and couldn't get through the phone lines. I just wanted to share a quick story with your team. My husband has been assigned to the Crenshaw district to upgrade and replace the streetlights. For the past few months, my husband has been telling me stories about this amazing shop owner who always comes out with snacks, water, and sodas. Every time the shop owner thanks him for work and upgrading the area. A few times the shop owner tried hooking up my husband with free merchandise. My husband would tell me what a cool and real nice guy he was. Yesterday, my husband called me crying and very distraught. My husband told me, "You know that shop owner who I'm always telling you about?" I was like, "Yeah, what's up?" My husband then proceeded to tell me, "Well, I just saw his pictures on the news and it turns out it was Nipsey Hussle." My husband is just a simple streetlight electrician and no one has ever been so kind to him on his job. This short story is just a small example of a great man's character. I'm so sad. And so many more stories like this kept coming out, which just showed how much Nipsey Hussle impacted in his community. And to help Nipsey's legacy live on, his family launched a foundation called the Neighborhood Nip Foundation in August of 2019. Nipsey Hussle's brother, Black Sam, says this foundation will continue to bring opportunity and open doors for youth hoping to break into music, and this is the same thing that Nipsey needed when he was young. If it wasn't for the Watts Towers program, Nipsey probably would have never learned how to use music equipment like he did. So that program was very important and vital for Nipsey Hussle's career. So Black Sam says that's the same thing they're going to try to do with the Neighborhood Nip Foundation, is get people that want to break into music, have equipment for them, have them learn the equipment, and so on and so forth. This foundation was immediately backed by a 6-figure donation from Atlantic Records, which was the company that partnered with All Money In Records back in 2017. Then a couple weeks later, on September 5th, 2019, the long-awaited collaboration with Puma and the Marathon Clothing was finally released, and it immediately sold out in seconds. And that was a good thing because Puma announced that 100% of the proceeds would go to the Neighborhood Nip Foundation. Puma also helped Nipsey Hussle while he was alive give back to his community. In October 2018, they refurbished and repainted the basketball courts at the 59th Street Elementary School and donated $10,000.
Rapper Nipsey Hussle goes back to where it all started.
Right now we on 59th and 3rd Ave. I grew up a couple blocks from here. My grandma been in this area, in this community since, decades. It's one of our home courts.
Only on this day, he's at 59th Street Elementary School.
And rooted in this community since day one.
Touring the basketball courts he helped renovate in a partnership with Puma. This is what the courts looked like before.
The backboards was a little ate up, it was no color on the floor, it was a little ran down.
And this is what they looked like after. Nipsey and Puma pumped 10 grand into them.
Obviously the artist was crazy, drew visuals, and it just brings some color, to a place where all the kids gonna be every day, surrounded by art. I think it's good for the brain, I think it's good for the spirit.
When Nipsey bought the plaza back in February 2019, where his Marathon Clothing was, he had plans with his business partner Dave Gross to put in a couple $1 million for the plaza, and within 18 months or so to knock down everything down and rebuild it as a 6-story residential building atop a commercial plaza where a revamped Marathon store will be the anchor tenant. And I'm sure David Gross and Nipsey's brother Black Sam are working on actually doing that. Nipsey Hussle was also hoping to expand his Marathon Films business, so he announced that he was going into the documentary route when it comes to films, and announced that he was working on a Dr. Sebi documentary. And after he passed, Nick Cannon vowed to continue that Dr. Sebi documentary, and just recently he actually released the full trailer for it. Another thing that fans wondered after Nipsey had passed is what exactly are we going to get in terms of music from him now that he's no longer here.
But do you have in mind the next 4 moves when it comes to music, when it comes to names and stuff?
I got concepts that that's brewing. I for sure got the title of the next one. Mm-hmm. I ain't gonna go public yet, but it's a cold title, yeah.
When Nipsey signed a partnership deal with Atlantic Records in late 2017, that deal was a 4-album contract, meaning he has to release 4 albums with that partnership deal. And one of them already came out, which was Victory Lap in February 2018, and that leaves 3 albums left to complete the contract. And Nipsey was gearing up to release his second album when he released the first single, Racks in the Middle, with Roddy Ricch and Hit Boy. So when he passed, the question was asked, what is going to happen with the last 3 albums under the contract with Atlantic? And just weeks before Nipsey passed, he did an interview with Complex Magazine, and they asked him what's next to come after the Victory Lap album. And he told them he has a whole strategy on how he wants to roll out his albums with that 4-album deal. He said, I got an album concept called exit strategy. That might be one of my last ones. It's a term they use in business when you build companies. You create an exit strategy as you make a company. You don't wait till you're 5 years in it. You create an exit strategy as you make the company. So with that interview taking place, it seems like Nipsey had a plan on how he wanted to roll out those 4 albums. And if he wrote all those things down, his team, I'm sure, is going to execute it just like he had planned. And Nipsey was known for recording a lot of music in the studio. Kid Ink even said when he was in the studio with him, he recorded a lot of tracks. Nipsey in various interviews stated that he recorded well over 200 tracks just for the debut album Victory Lap. And it isn't too far-fetched to say that whenever Nipsey's team decides that they want to release a new album from Nipsey, it's going to impact a lot more than when he was alive. After he passed, the Associated Press reported that Nipsey Hussle's sales and streams basically skyrocketed. His album Victory Lap, when he was alive, debuted at number 4 on the Billboard 200. But when he passed, it ended up going back on the Billboard 200 charts, and it went higher than number 4. It ended up landing at number 2. Another thing that happened was every single that was off the Victory Lap album ended up going gold after he passed, and eventually the Victory Lap album itself went platinum, which means it sold 1 million copies. And the single Racks in the Middle ended up going platinum as well. So this just goes to show a lot more people started becoming interested in his music after he passed. And there were a lot of features that Nipsey was on that was released after he passed. The first one was the DJ Khaled Higher track featuring John Legend, and the music video that was shot for it would be the last music video that Nipsey Hussle would ever shoot. And this track ended up peaking at number 21 on the Billboard Hot 100, which would be his highest peaked track ever in his career so far. The single also ended up going gold. And as time went on, more and more tracks started coming out. DJ Mustard released his album Perfect 10, and on the title track, it was featuring Nipsey Hussle. Rick Ross dropped his Port of Miami 2 album, and on the track Rich Guy Lifestyle, it featured Nipsey Hussle. The Game also dropped his album Born to Rap, and he has a track on there called Welcome Home featuring Nipsey Hussle. And when Nipsey passed, there was also a lot of artists that paid tribute to him through their music. Meek Mill dropped a track called Letter to Nipsey featuring Roddy Ricch. Snoop Dogg dropped a track called One Blood, One Cuz. Trey the Truth dropped a tribute track called Nipsey, and Dave East dropped a tribute track called The Marathon Continues. And the All Money In record label is still producing music from various artists signed to it. Jay Stone dropped his debut album, The Definition of Loyalty, on November 6, 2019. And on this album, there's a track tributed to Nipsey Hussle, and there's a track actually featuring Nipsey Hussle. And the album is very fire. If you have time, check it out. My favorite track is number 15 called Real Shit. And various other artists are releasing projects on the label. And Nipsey was finally recognized by award shows after he passed, and the BET Awards in 2019 gave him the Humanitarian Award and the Best Male Hip Hop Artist Award. And when they went to go accept the Humanitarian Award, Nipsey's mom gave a speech, and it's a very dope speech. If you guys have time, go ahead and check it out. And the Grammys finally recognized Nipsey Hussle's music as well. On January 26, 2020, at the 62nd Annual Grammy Awards, he ended up winning the Best Rap/Sung Performance for his feature in DJ Khaled's Higher, and the Best Rap Performance for the track Racks in the Middle. Although Nipsey passing was a very tragic event, I feel like it inspired a lot more people to look into his life, and hopefully those people that looked into it got inspired themselves. And Nipsey was a very forward-thinking person, so it comes at no surprise that he planned well ahead of this tragic event. From music to business to investments to help in the community, Nipsey was well ahead of the curve and planned strategically that if something tragic like this were to happen to him, his friends and family could continue without him even being here. So as Nipsey always says, the marathon continues.
If I die today, I know to set proud, nigga.
I call my thing the marathon because I'm not gonna lie and portray this ultimate poise like I've had it figured out. No, I just didn't quit. That's the only distinguishing quality from me and probably whoever else going through this or went through this or is gonna go through this, is that I ain't quit. I went through every emotion. I went through every emotion with trying to pursue what I'm doing. You know what I mean? And I think that what gonna separate whoever's gonna try to go for something is that you ain't gonna quit. Unless, you know, you're gonna really take the stance if I'm gonna die behind what I'm getting at right now.
I read somewhere that the highest human act is to inspire. And we all are in search of inspiration every day. So events like this and just opportunities to be able to either inspire or be inspired, I think is what creates movement.